All right, guys, welcome to Powerline Podcast. Welcome to another episode. This is episode 117. All right, Bryce Hubbard was on the pod a few weeks ago now, but he shot me a text message saying, hey, I've got this idea. The idea was to do 60, 90 second, maybe 2-minute little safety moments, pick a subject, talk about that subject, and we could roll those out in little short form content. I was like, I kind of like this idea. I kind of like connecting with you guys, connecting with the field. So I said, let's jump on. We'll record it as another mini episode where Bryce and I will just talk about like coming up with this idea. So that's what this episode is about. Hopefully it hits. Hopefully you've got something or learned something from it. And yeah, so let's roll it. Bryce, welcome back to the show. You reached out with an idea a couple weeks ago now, and I really like the idea. I think there's something to it. I think that we could do something with this idea, and the idea was to talk about safety, bring up safety topics from the field, direct from the field, and talk about these things in bite-sized chunks and put them out in bite-sized chunks. Anyway, I really like that idea. I want to discuss it with you online. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again. Where would you like to start at?
So I just did a little bit of research this morning. I was kind of digging around, and I actually went to Quanta's website. They got a new website, and they have some really great language in there. And I really liked this statement. And I think that I kind of like tweaked it a little bit just because I'd like each person to think about having a statement or adopt a core philosophy as a person out in the field. Like, so a lineman in the field adopting a core philosophy that goes something like this. Each person should like create their own or, you know, what safety means to them. But something like this I really liked. So I put safety above all personal pursuits and work practices. When it comes to safety, I don't cut corners, I don't accept excuses, and I don't stop at good enough. Simply put, if it can't be done safely, it can't be done. I just like that, especially that last statement. So I want to just chat about this with you. Maybe this is a good place to start. If it can't be done safely, it can't be done. How many times have you seen in your career people risk, yourself included, myself included, risk too much? So anyway, thoughts on that, maybe as a starting point.
Okay. Our job comes with enough inherent risk as it is just when you are following the rules to a T. I believe there are things that are going to happen that are beyond your control. When you add in third-party contractors or different people that may not be on the same wavelength as you, a lot like when you had the conversation with Brandon with his accident, new people get injected into situations, and then it can snowball. But I see people take risks, and I take risks, and it's not necessary, some of them. But I think we can all do better. We should all strive to do better. It should be at the top of the brain. So I don't really know how much detail I should go into with that because I do want to keep it kind of anonymous. My idea here is to not point fingers and call people onto the carpet, but more I would like to create a culture of sharing information that can apply to everybody in a situation. I've been paying a lot more attention to the podcast since I was on it and listening to more people talk. And it's been a thought where we can, it's kind of hard to put it into words, but we can share information that happens and own our trade a little bit more.
I think some of that
not
is
just
like,
leave it up to the 5-minute meetings or the safety bulletins that go around. You know what I mean?
100%. And yeah, my heart's not to point fingers, but to be a voice that can call it out, per se. You know?
Right.
Maybe it's the first time, maybe it's honestly somebody listening to this, it's the first time they've heard this and they've been doing this career for 20 years. And it's the first time they've it's hitting them differently because maybe he just had a near miss or something's happened where they hear this and they go, shit, you know what? I do risk too much and maybe I don't need to. Maybe there's a different way to do this. Maybe I can look at it from a different perspective or just take a step back. And it's not pointing fingers saying that. And I certainly don't want to do that because like I said, I've been there so many times. I've taken risks in my career, still in life, that I look back the next day and go, did I really need to do that? Did I have to? I was thinking about going, my buddy just asked me to go paragliding this week. And it didn't work out. But I'm taking a look at that going, is it something that I really, I want to?
Right.
But am I going overall? Anyway, going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but that's not the thing. I'm not here to, we're not here to point fingers, but to call some things out and then to help educate where we can, to dig into topics. I think that's where we're going with it, right? To dig into some topics a little deeper, bring them up and share the information that's available out there.
Right. Yeah. Just plain and simple. We use retractable yo-yos here for getting out on tower arms and out on dead end boards, ladders. You need to have them going back to an anchor point. Preferably have a redirect where you won't be swinging into the tower if you were to come off of your ladder or something like that. So, I don't know, a month ago, we got a safety bulletin that yo-yo somewhere out in the universe had failed to immediately catch somebody. And I would have to go back and reread it. But whatever the case was, it failed and it let you go out to the end of it, I guess. So there was a safety recall that was put out on these. And on there, it listed what had happened and then all the serial numbers of what to look for. And I snapped a picture of it and just sent it to a couple other people that I knew. And then listening to the podcast more, I thought, wouldn't this be something good to just, something just as not as severe as some other accidents, but something like that. It would be good to get the news out to people on a platform such as yours that is going to reach people. And then it could go into other stuff, heat-related illnesses, and just something that is quick and easy to digest with the mind. Maybe right at the start of the day, somebody sees it, or they're sitting in their truck waiting to walk into work or whatever the case is, and then you have something that's right on the top of your mind and gets your gears turning in a good direction, is what I was thinking.
Dig it.
And obviously, you and I are only two people, but I know that there's people out there that have, the trade has a lot to offer in itself and taking care of itself. Is there a way that we can collaborate and get this information put together and then boil it down to here's the brass tacks of it, quick, easy, and publish it or not publish it, but get it out more than what it already is. Because there's a lot of accidents there's accidents that happen that are not really huge deals. I think let's just say nobody gets hurt, maybe some property damage, no fatalities. And sometimes if you're not in that yard, you don't hear about it at all. And it could be something as simple as, somebody got T-boned in an intersection, not putting that person or that employee at fault, but just raising awareness, I think is the start in the right direction.
I love it because
I'm not a safety guy. I don't know.
Like, neither am I either. And neither of us want to be that. And like, it's tough because like, this is one of those reasons that safety's always got the legalities around it. Right. And
Right.
one of the reasons why, you've heard it so many times from the field, from linemen say, oh, it'd be nice if, some of the investigation from that incident made it back down to the field and actually made a difference or made a change. And I know that it does in an indirect way. I know there's like really smart people in really high places that actually do really good work. We both work for organizations that, have safety people employed that are freaking awesome. They're changing the industry. We just want to help be a part of that and help communicate some of those things. That I love the fact that we could be a couple of dudes, a couple of linemen, just talking about these subjects with a slightly bigger voice, like a platform to just talk about it on. And nobody wants to get into any sort of like legal trap where you said the wrong thing or whatever. So like, this is all just like a discussion about stuff that is public. It's publicly out there, but maybe you just haven't seen it yet. Or,
Right.
maybe
And
something's happened and it's something to keep your eye out for or something like that. I like the idea of that. I don't know if anyone else out there does.
And it could be just something as, in the context of, hey, we had, just like if you were calling a friend, another person in the trade,
Yeah.
and say, oh yeah, hey man, we had, this rigging failed today, or whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't need to get off into the weeds. I'm not interested in that. But if it could be something as simple as just something to put in the front of your mind at the beginning of the day and start it in the right direction and thinking along those lines. How many people have, just like what Brandon Hill was saying, how many people have latched onto a helicopter and didn't know anything about what's going on in that current situation with that person, don't even know the person's name, and maybe just we can start breeding a little bit of culture and doing our due diligence. Or it could be, just friendly reminder, go through your grounds. Is your stuff tested and in date? Are your hot sticks good? And I'll offer little tidbits about that to put it at the top of the brain. And those little things, they add up and they make a difference.
Love it.
And however that goes, it'd be good to get input from people, because there's a whole lot going on. It's a big world, and something that happens on the East Coast could affect somebody on the West Coast that afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that this is definitely going to take, so like anybody listening, it's going to take input from other people. It's going to take effort and action on behalf of others that are listening to this and in the industry to like shoot, documents or screenshots or bulletins or, like a DM of, a near miss or a hot topic.
And
hey,
share whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Well, even like, hey, Bry, this was a hot topic at debrief today. We talked about equal potential grounding bonding. We got into a situation, we're setting up a stringing site, and we got into a little situation we couldn't really explain. Is there anybody in your network that, you could bring on to talk a little bit more specific about what was maybe going on here and share some insights on it? Like we got lots of people in the network, that I've brought guys on the show before. Like they're way back. That's the problem. That's one of my problems with the podcast is it's like I wish he could just like continually push some of these episodes back to the forefront again. I guess the best way I can do it is to like bring it up again. But I've had my foreman from the past. I've had him on 3 or 4 times now. David Fossa. I should have him on again, but he's really liking retirement and working on the farm and that sort of thing. But Fossa is like one of the smartest guys I've ever met, especially when it comes to things like grounding and bonding. And we have lots of guys within the organization too that I haven't had on the show that know about these subjects, but bringing them back on. But I have episodes already that talk about these subjects that specifically nail down on equal potential, grounding, bonding, that sort of thing.
And the bigger the library gets, the further, the deeper,
totally. The deeper
somebody
it
has
gets,
to dive. So it would be good to figure out a way to nail that down with some input from other people. And I think that a big problem with a lot of these safety trainings and events that go on is we make an 8 or a 10-hour day out of it, and what happens in the middle of the day, people are pretty much tuned out by then. So if it can just be short little tidbits like, 2 friends, 2 lineman coworkers talking to each other. We don't need to go into specifics. We don't need to get, you don't need to include names or company names. I'm more interested in, hey, this hoist failed, or we had this incident, or rigging failures, stuff like that. And it just gives people a thing to think about rather than just a drone of, a safety person, representative barking at you. And that doesn't always get heard.
In 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, exactly. 5, 10, 15 minutes max, just talking about a topic, bringing it up, chatting about it as linemen.
And we all do make mistakes, and we take shortcuts every day. And it starts before we even go to work. We're doing it on the way to work, I am not better than anybody else. So I'm not looking to stand on a soapbox, but I am thinking of more of just a culture change. What can we do to help each other out? There's a lot of stuff that gets brought up to me. I'm like, where did this happen at? Like, like down the road. I'm like, this is the first I'm hearing of it, and it's kind of shocking, really. Yeah. And what can we do to own our trade a little bit more as a lineman? I think it's a good thing to talk about.
I like the idea of repeatable threads coming out of something like this too. And what I mean by that is like, I've tried in the show so far to have repetitive topics where I ask each person that comes on a similar or a group of similar questions, like around leadership or mental health or something like the stress management or learning from the past, because everyone has something different to say about it. And I like something like this where it's almost like I could draw from that then in questioning for future episodes, Right. I could pick threads out and then inject that into my questioning for each and every episode and, in the future.
And one that I got that frustrated me after the fact, after the last podcast, when you asked what's most important tool in the lineman's toolkit, and I said the two-way radio, that's important. But also, if I were to amend that answer, is that handline.
Yeah,
that gets overlooked. But I know like a lot of people just out of the hydraulic bucket, they'll leave it in a bin.
Yeah,
I'll leave it in a bin. Then I got to thinking about it, and I was talking all that stuff about the radio being your lifeline to get picked up by a helicopter. Or I was thinking of it in that context, but in the context of the distribution guys that are doing stuff right now, leaving the ground without your hand line that can be the matter of minutes that you need.
I know a guy I worked with. I saw We all saw it. Kind of was a viral, like, social clip a month or so ago of that bucket catching fire and
Yeah.
the other bucket
Yeah.
coming. So same scenario. A guy I personally know was secondary, kind of flashed up. He was just making secondary connections. Secondary flashed up, caught the sawdust and hydraulic oil within the handle, caught that on fire, caught the bucket on fire. He had to get out he climbed out onto the tell and the messenger and like shimmied out mid span where it was lowest to the ground and fucking dropped, broke both legs. Like, survived, thank God. Bucket burnt to a crisp, burnt and fell right off the truck. And nobody around, no hand line, fell to the ground, broke both legs. Lucky he's alive. He's all good now. But shit, man, add another 10 or 15 feet to that, and it could be a totally different story. So, I don't know.
Yeah. And
you're 100% right.
I think it would be really good, man. I wanted to ask you too, how many people come on here and, how many people ask you about your background? 'Cause I've been able to pick up little tidbits, just through listening, and some instruction. But has this been hashed out, or I don't want to recreate content, but I'm curious. What led you to where you're at now?
I've talked about it in bite-sized chunks through social media and through the podcast. I've genuinely been so interested in other people. I'm happy you asked the question because I like to talk about it, but I don't feel like I should just like come out and start talking about myself when I interview other people.
No. And it's a dangerous thing to do within
totally.
linemen are not impressed by that, but I'm asking genuinely,
So I'll give you the Coles notes. I'm a second generation lineman. My father was a lineman before me. He was an electrician prior to that. Started an electrical company, realized the money was in high voltage, so decided to turn his company to a high voltage company. Went through apprenticeship while being a company owner. You could do this back in the 80s and be an actual, own the company and put yourself through apprenticeship. And anyway, did that. Was very successful. Ended up selling the business, and he actually sold it to Quanta and went on to work for Quanta for a few years, and he's retired now. But I started with him basically right out of high school. About 6 months to a year out of high school, I started a Powerline apprenticeship. No, it's never something I wanted to do as a kid. As a kid, I worked around line trucks and bucket trucks, and I stocked trucks and sorted shelves and painted trailers, and I was around the shop all the time during the summers. It was never something I really wanted to do, but as soon as I did it, I realized it was for me. I loved it, loved every bit of it, and never really looked back. Once I finished my apprenticeship, I worked a lot in copper and gold mines, worked a lot in some transmission jobs, built a 500 kV tower, worked a lot of substations, like substation construction for sawmills and mines and things like that. So 60 kV, 138 kV subs from the ground up, right from the conduit, the grounding to breakers and transformers and all of that. Lots of variety. It was a small company in a small town. So we really did a lot of variety of different things. But once he sold the company, he sold it to Quanta Services. And that really kicked the door open for opportunities to expand outward. So I just started checking off the bucket list of things in the trade I wanted to do. Wanted to get into heli work. I did that. I wanted to be a barehand lineman. So I got into the barehand course and passed the barehand course and did barehand work for about 5 years, changing spacer dampers, changing 500 kV insulators, arcing horn installations, some random substation live line stuff, that sort of stuff. Worked in South Texas for a while on a big reconductor job in South Texas for a few months. One of the biggest reconductors in North America. And then after that, went into management for a few. So 15 years in the field, 15 plus years in the field. and then about 5 years in management. After management, there's various levels of management, resources, things like that. And then went into instructing after that. So got a job with Quanta again at Lazy Q, and a little bit of redid my bare hand certification, did a little bit of bare hand stuff, but then really primarily got into instructing with pre-apprentice students. I really love the influence you could have when they're newbies, when they're not linemen.
Yeah,
and
everybody
they, and they
does, right?
fucking know everything already, right? So
Yeah.
when they're kind of at the beginning and they're really hungry and they want it and they're there for a reason, and the Lazy Q line school was really a different sort of model. You had to actually be sponsored by a Quanta company. So you had to work for a Quanta company and then put your hand up and say, I want to be an apprentice. And that company had to really go, okay, we're going to support you and send you to this school to get trained. So they were bought in, they were there, they were invested.
So were these students primarily like from utility Quanta owned companies, I would assume?
Yeah, contracting companies.
Okay.
Like, like PAR, service.
So not, okay.
Yeah.
That would get them ready to get into a JATC program.
They were groundmen. Yeah, exactly. They're groundmen. Okay. And then they just put their hand up at the company and said, hey, I want to be an apprentice. I think I do really good work for you guys. And the company would go, okay, yeah, no, we're going to sponsor you. You're a good hand, and send you to the school for pre-apprenticeship. And then we would help support them and get them into that JTC, get them into that apprenticeship program, and kind of like support them when they go back into the field, right? They got a job when they get back. They're an apprentice right away, or, within the next six to 8 months, they're an apprentice. And that's what I was involved with. That and the veteran program. I've talked about it a bit on the show, but the Veteran Electrical Entry Program, or the VEEP program, it's basically helping vets get into. So Quanta teamed up with the IBEW and NECA, and they wanted to grow the Veteran Electrical Entry Program. So a vet that's just out of active duty, within 2 years, I believe, out of active duty, can apply for the program. And if you are accepted, like, it almost seems too good to be true. I get it online all the time, but if you accepted the program, you get free tools, training at the Lazy Q, 15-week training program, the pre-apprenticeship program. You get it's basically direct entry into the district of your choice, the IBW district of your choice, within reason. You put
That's huge, though.
It's huge, and guaranteed employment with a Quanta company in that area as well. So it's a full meal. It's a gift, and it's an amazing opportunity, and you don't even have to use your GI for it. It's so beautiful.
Too.
It's fully supported and paid for by all the partnerships involved, whether it's Quanta, and there's industry partners as well, like Buckingham and Milwaukee and Working Athlete, and there's a few others that Tallman Equipment. There's a few others that are involved with the program that really invest everything into it and make it work, and it's growing. Like, there's probably 100. I want to say probably 150 going through that annually now. Could be even more. That go through that program.
I've noticed that the trade appeals to a lot of vets.
Yeah, man. So good for vets.
I've had some people tell me it's a structured sort of job that's still pure, not sitting in a cubicle and office stuff. I've been curious since the last time we talked, like what all led you here, and then the podcast, obviously.
When I was in management, I wanted that connection with the trade. For one, I wanted the connection with the trade again, and the guys, they're my family and my friends. And when I grew up, my father and mother, they had a small, like, my mother was part of the company as well, and it was a small company in a small town, like 2 crews max, and Dad couldn't always like pay the per diems and everything. So we would offer like room and board, right? My mom would, give them a bed and meals and things like that, just to get linemen from the East Coast to come work here, from out of province to come work in a small community for a while. We'd put them up, right? And so I grew up around these stories, like listening to linemen talk around the table till all hours, till
Right.
mom sent us to bed. And it wasn't until I started like working in the trade for myself, I was like, okay, I'm a part of this now. I put the two and two together, and I'm getting these stories for myself. And, fast forward 15 years, I've worked all over the country or countries. I've done some pretty amazing work myself. I've been very fortunate to do cool work, meet awesome people, and, see the world. And I wanted to just like talk with people about that and kind of capture these stories and talk to guys like yourself or everyone else I've had on this show just about their life, where they come from, how they got into the trade, how they found the trade, what's their experiences in it. And that was the heart of the podcast. So I started it in 2019 for that reason, and just kind of like kept persistent with it. And about a year and a bit ago,
Yeah, keep going.
Quanta, I'd been working for Quanta, but I had always been just doing the podcast on the side. But their COO DM'd me on Instagram, like Chief Operating Officer for Quanta Services, DMs me on Instagram and is like, "Hey Ryan, we should talk about maybe how you can do this for Quanta. So let's get on the phone together." And I was like, wow, okay.
When you saw that DM, were you like, oh shit, I've messed up?
Yeah, like, hey,
Yeah.
hey Ryan, I think we should chat. And I was like, okay, what did I do now? And
Oh, great.
it was all positive. It was like, hey, we've been watching what you're doing. We really like what you're doing. We really like the message you're promoting. You talk about leadership, safety, and all these things like we talk about, and promoting the trade. It'd be kind of cool if maybe we could do this together and help grow it. And I was like, so let's do it. So yeah, that's why.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So something else I wanted to kind of follow up on from the last time that I was on, and you said that once you got to working around the trucks and this and that for your dad, you realized that it was for you. So without getting, I'm not going to name any names here, but I mentioned a friend last time I was on. And since the podcast, he's gotten out of the trade, and for personal reasons I'm not going to get into. But when that happened, I was pretty disappointed in him. And I come to realize it's kind of more out of my own selfish reasons. But I talked with him last night for the first time since everything's happened. And, he got out of the apprenticeship. And the kid sounded happy. And he sounded healthy for the first time in several years. And I think it's important for everybody to realize whether you're at whatever stage in the game, apprenticeship, lineman, you may be going through something where this particular job isn't for you, or the apprenticeship isn't for you, or where working isn't for you. And there's no shame. I realized this last night. If it's not for you, not for you. And that it's better to be invested 100%, be excited about going and doing what you're doing with who you're doing it with, and have your head in the game, come back to safety, full loop here, than to be not in the game.
Yeah.
Not have your head in the game and be here for the wrong reasons. And so if you're going through that, because we all do, where you might be, anytime I drag up and have I feel like my freedom back again, that freedom, whatever it is, drive back to the fifth wheel to hook on and go somewhere else is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're happy where you're at. If you're not, it's okay to make a change.
Happiness is number one. If if you're not happy doing it, don't do it, whatever it is. So if it's a job or like whatever the thing is, okay, Bryce, name something that you started that you didn't quit something prior to starting that new thing. Every beginning, I'll phrase it differently. Every beginning and every new thing that you partake in or do or start, every adventure you start, there's a beginning to it. Something before that you had to quit in order to allow room or time or access to the new thing. Like, quitting's okay. Quitting is it's okay.
I feel really weird saying I quit. I don't like to, and I have quit doing things that I want to get back to and finish up, and it nags at me. But in this instance, and this guy was an apprentice, and I mentioned him like getting through it, and he was going through a whole lot more than what I realized. And at the time, when he's like, man, you know, maybe it's just not for me, and I'm not happy. Okay, well, my initial reaction is, you're an apprentice. You're not getting, like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Like, you're not
You're not going to be
happy. Like, if you're happy and you're comfortable, you're probably not getting like the full apprenticeship experience. And I said that, and you know, me being me, the happiness comes afterward, like that, and it does. So yes, quitting when you're not, if you are in an unhealthy mental place, where it's not something that passes, please, like, realize it's okay to move on. But also, if you're an apprentice out there, this is not a free ticket. Like, I'm not offering you like an out to, oh, I'm just not happy. Like, no. It's gonna be a challenge. Mm-hmm. And there are, even as a lineman, and I've topped out almost 10 years, which take that for what it's worth. But there's days like, man, this ain't for me. You know, like, there, you have those days. But so weather the storm. And if the storm at that moment in time passes, and it is a constant, it's okay to reevaluate your position and understand. And if you do like the trade, you're an apprentice, or, you know, you're whatever it is, you know, there are other things to do in this trade that are still valuable. You know, you can still be out there. Maybe you need to change a classification or whatever it is. But I just wanted to get that out there, because it happened not too long after I expressed some pride in him getting through what he was getting through. And if he ever does listen to this, you know, like, sorry for cussing you over the phone but I mean, you know,
that's what bro's
going to
do.
Push people.
Yeah.
But it's also okay. And your mental health is a huge thing. And you've spoken about that a lot on here. But change the show up, change the job, go see something different. It can be healthy for you. And not going to fault you, but we can get caught up in this thing where it's like, man, when this job's done, I'll go, or whatever. You put a timeline out there that is so far away. But understand, all the power lines are going to be built. Like, there's power lines being built without you all day, every day. You know, like, none of us are the end all be all to the job, or the crew. Somebody will come. As
much as everyone
those
likes
guys
to
will
think
get them up to speed. You know, it will work out, and don't use that as an excuse to keep yourself in a situation that you're not comfortable with, or that's taking a toll on you. your family, whatever it is, keeping you away from what is going to really matter 15 years, 20 years down the road. Spend time with the people you need to. And the trade will be here, and just like in his situation, he needs to go home and get his head right, get his ducks in a row. You can always try again, or, you can always come back to it.
Timing is
as a lineman.
important. Yeah. Timing is important, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just not the right time. And everyone has a life, like few things to dissect this a little bit. Like everyone has a life path. So maybe this is the right choice. Who's to say it's the wrong choice? Like heaven forbid the guy stay on the job, forced to stay on the job or something like that. And something happens. You just don't know. Maybe this decision is the decision that saves his life in many more ways than one. But if you are struggling with this decision, don't just take every decision lightly. Don't just quit for the sake of like, I can't take this. Like do some inner work. It sounds woo-woo and fluffy, but like get shit straight. Like sit down, like read some books on this, like set some boundaries, set some goals, like do some inner work. Ask yourself some tough, hard questions. Go to some counseling, something, to try to sort through it.
That's what he's done some inner soul searching, and I've had to go through it too. I had to go through it as an apprentice. I quit drinking for 2 years. Like I had to go through a lot of stuff, and it's also good in your off time to like you said, educate yourself on that. Make yourself do some things that you don't want to do. Whatever that is. I heard you and Kane on here talking shit about people taking ice baths down in the United States. I started doing that, and there is, number one, it does help my joints feel better.
Totally.
Because I feel I have pains that I shouldn't have at 33.
I started it for a while too, bro. It's hard.
And there is nothing, it might be 106 down here and I'm sore and hot. Like, I'm going to take an ice bath when I get back. Like, yeah. And then I fill that fucking tub up, and put the ice in there, and just watch the temperature drop. And I'm like, I don't really want to do this, but getting it in there and making yourself do something every other day that you just absolutely don't want to do, and every fiber of your body is telling you this is not right. It's like a cliche thing going around on social media right now, but man, it is true.
Yeah.
Like it sets the pace for your mindset.
If you're in a bad mood, go get in an ice bath. It's kind of hard to be in a bad mood. Like,
because your body's going to react, and you
can't think about anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, holy shit, this is cold. But if you can get through that 10 seconds of it kind of evens out. It doesn't get easier, but it becomes, you can get tolerate it. It builds a little bit of mental fortitude.
Mm-hmm.
As people that are into long distance running, I guess that maybe that's like the same sort of thing. But for the people that are struggling out there, I went through some mental stuff in my early 20s where I was looking for an excuse or an out to, that's just how it is. And it was like, an adolescent mindset of, I'll deal with it and be, depressed or let it weigh me down, instead of actually going out and fixing the issue of whatever that might be,
Mm-hmm.
But it does take some inner working on yourself. And that's something that it can be really hard to realize, and it's not comfortable.
No.
And it's hard to do. And it's the same thing with, back to safety. When we take a shortcut, why are you free climbing? Well, it's not real comfortable to use buck squeeze. And we do it from time to time and do this and that, but you got to kind of just get yourself used to it and make yourself do something that you don't necessarily want to do. And I always think about it in the context of, okay, if I'm free climbing, or especially a wood pole versus a tower, if I have that thought in my mind, I don't do it on wood poles. I've adopted that just because I didn't really learn to free climb. So I mean, I can get through it, but I wouldn't trust myself.
Yeah.
To get out there and get wild with it. But now that I have a son and a wife, okay, let's just say you do get hurt and I break my leg. Who's paying the bills? Well, I broke a safety rule and now I'm laid up at home. So in that context, that's what I try to put in my mind to get myself to not take those shortcuts. Once again, not perfect. I'm sure there's somebody listening to this, right? That they've seen me take a shortcut and but for the most part, that's a pretty good mindset. It's not you that's going to pay for it. It's the other people that are counting on you, making the money, making the mortgage payments, whatever it is, or just you being there.
It's the loss of life. It's the loss of potential. It's the loss of so many different things. Whatever you want to attach yourself onto to get you to not do that thing, good. But it's so many different things. Each person is valuable in this life, no matter if you think so or not. You're valuable to somebody, and just even. Yeah, like I said, the loss of potential. You're a freaking human being. You have so much potential. You've got it's a big spectrum. Look at a guy like Elon Musk. He's just human, Yeah. And he's doing big things. And maybe he's a bad example right now, but you know what I mean?
Right.
He's doing big things in the world. Pick somebody. There's that potential in each and every person. Whether you believe that yourself or not, that potential's in you. It's in your head. It's in your body. It's in you're a freaking human being like everyone else. You can bring that out. It just takes.
And do you believe that there's, an Elon Musk or whoever, these people find these things that they're really good at, and they excel at them. Each of us, just going back to, is it or is it not for you? There are people that are really good at this job.
Yeah.
There are people that are great linemen.
Yeah.
And then the moment that they step into a leadership capacity, or it's not for them.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that they're good at the job. Maybe they're not the fastest or most efficient or whatever you quantify successful as a journeyman, but then they get moved into a higher up position, and then but they're really good at laying workout and planning workout, and then you're just making, the crews are making all this money because the upper levels are being run so smooth because that guy found, or that woman found their niche. And we do have a lot of potential, and it's about finding what you're good at. There's a lot of people that like to think they're really good at something, but maybe this isn't the thing that you're the best at. And I think that it's a foolish thing to waste and pigeonhole yourself into a corner of I need to be here, but give yourself some room to grow and be uncomfortable, and it might end up being huge,
100%.
And it's pretty wild to, we shouldn't limit ourselves in that aspect of potential. And especially when you go into doing something and I tried it and I'm not good at it. Well, what have you tried the first time where you just nailed it? That's of any complication. The first podcast,
bro,
go back and listen to anybody's podcast. Dude, they're terrible at the beginning.
I said this in a few of the podcasts I've been on. I was the shy kid in school. And I remember in grade 4, I could not introduce my teacher to my parents. I hid, I was so shy, timid, could not think of public speaking. Never mind be in this position I'm at today. I've run a successful podcast, spoken in front of big audiences of 300 plus people and done okay with that. It's never something I would have done before. It's all because I continually put myself in uncomfortable situations, and I've been willing to leave something to try something new. And I don't think that adults
Huge, man.
do this.
That was my next question.
I don't think adults do this in life enough. As kids, you're skateboarding one week, the next week you're playing football, the next week you're trying track, the next week you're twirling shit and like whatever. Like, you're trying things, you pick it up, you try it, you leave it, and maybe one or two of those things stick for life and you do that thing for life. But the thing is, you try things. Now think about, as an adult,
Right.
when was the last time you just like picked up a skateboard? Yeah, I've never skateboarded before. I'm gonna try skateboarding. No, like, that doesn't happen. Never mind, like, oh, I'm gonna leave this job that I've spent doing for 20 years or 15 years or whatever and try something new. I'm in the same industry, but I'm doing completely different job. Like, I'm basically in marketing and full-time podcasting. I'm talking on a subject I know something about, but I could start any podcast now on any subject, and I know that I have the tools to be successful in that now. Like, I've continually tried something new, from line work to management to instructing they're totally different things every time you get into something new. People need to try new things.
Yeah, and it goes into the job as well, where lots of people, I've never worked at utilities, but some of the complaints that I've heard from people that have come out into the contracting world is inside those utility companies. It's a lot of those places are like, this is how we do it here, and this is the cookie cutter way that everybody does it. Whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes, and being open to the new idea, boy, it can work out really good, But the risk taking, man, I've been in a couple discussions with guys about that in the past couple weeks, and it takes a lot to let go and try something. Guys that are going out and starting their own, their own line work companies, but I noticed something about those character types where those guys tend to be the types of guys that just aren't afraid of failure, and they don't look at it as failure. They just look at it as
learning.
I guess, yeah, learning. That one didn't work out, but this one will stick. And maybe they go and it doesn't stick, but sooner or later, one of them might stick. And all they are is people that tried something. That's it. And that one worked out. I'm sure if personal friends I've known guys that have tried to do things, see them in a year's, out here making a little bit more money, then they go try again. And it's a good character trait that I wish I had more of myself.
It's something like I love encouraging linemen to try too, is new things, because this is why I talk about, like, don't get yourself into these situations, like financially, for example, where you're pinned to having to work in this industry, in this job. Because if you have that ticket, if you have that line ticket, you have that for life. You can drop that. Like, I still pay dues. I could go sign the books tomorrow and go work in the power lines again. Like, I could do that. And I've been out of it for a little while, like, but I could go do it. I still have that ticket. And meanwhile, for the last 10 years, I've tried half a dozen different things. I've tried instructing. I've tried this world, marketing, podcasting. Hell, I just started picking up a camera a year ago, and I'm getting pretty handy at photography and videography. Like, well, I don't know where that leads in the future either, right? Like, I might be completely in something new in 10 years or 20 years. Like, all I'm saying is, like, give yourself the opportunity to try new things. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially especially if you're a hand and you have that golden ticket and you've got some sort of an itch, like this is your call out. Like, go try something new. Go give something else a try. Just try that.
The itch is a big one. The itch is a real big one. I just had a phone conversation before I got on here with you, with a guy who went to the utility in Arizona, and like, yeah, man, it's, you know, I saw it. He's like, but I'm not like crazy about it. Probably won't stay here forever. But that perspective that you gain,
yeah,
and like for me with the helicopters, I had to do this.
Yeah,
I had to, and nothing was gonna turn me away from it. It was gonna happen, and I had, big ambitions with that. So I got into that for a bit, and then gained some perspective, and found a whole new love for line work.
yeah,
And not a love, but an appreciation. Gained the perspective, came back to line work, and have been able to really focus on what I'm doing here instead of daydreaming about where I was going to be going. So being able to take that time and get the perspective and just scratch the itch. Hey, I want to go do that. And I've talked about this with you before. Set yourself up financially so that you're not in a bind to be 732s, and you can take some time.
You can go work for that utility, and you can scratch that itch, and you can try that. And I encourage people, like, if you do that and you go work for that utility, or if you like, what can you learn within doing that? Can you learn things now about system control, troubleshooting, relationship building? Like, those are all things that you're never going to learn on a transmission right away. You're not going to learn about, intricate system controls or, repeat back procedures, or like, relationship building with your community, or, take a step back and go, man, there's so much I could learn here, because I don't know what the next 10 years have in store for me, and maybe I can take what I'm learning at a utility and I can go out to a transmission right away, or I can go into management or something, and I can take and directly apply that to that next job.
That's a big thing that I thought about in that culture aspect of it, of you go and you do try things, and you gain little pieces of information and knowledge. And then if you do come back to that, especially a transmission job, where there's bigger transmission jobs that are going on now, and more that are going to be coming, and those are bigger show-ups, and those are places that have more apprentices and ground help, guys that are brand new in the trade. But if you can take some positive message on culture or mindset to, let's just say, 5 people, and then going back to like that chart that they used to show you in sex ed, where in high school, like, you have sex with this one person, they had sex with these people, and they ended up making it out to where you had sex with like 1,000 people. But I guess maybe probably a better way to talk about it, a better analogy would have been like multi-level marketing or something. But
you've got everybody spitting their coffee on their dashboard right now.
Right. You can, if they take it to 5 people themselves, you can have a big effect on people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's more of what's needed in this trade, is being okay with taking educated risk, smart financial decisions, and a positive attitude that can really change our culture.
Yeah.
And how can that affect safety when people are happy where they're working?
Yeah.
They're in a financially sound spot to where they don't feel a financial pressure to get pushed into a decision, and then you just have this underlying culture of do better. Those guys, the first job that I got into in the IBEW was a 500 transmission job in Front Royal, Virginia, 2009. And 3 of those people, one of them is Rhett Horton. He's like my big brother. I talk to him 3 times a week, and it's had a huge effect on me. But he was and there was a couple other people out there too, but they were positive people, and they just had that of everything that we just talked about. They're those types of people, and they've been great to get to know and to have in life. And there's another guy. Quick little story. He passed away. His name was Dave Fender, and he was running a job in Florida. I met him working in San Diego. He was general foreman down there for the transmission crews, and he went back to Florida to, as I understand it, there was I believe it was a 345 line, but it was like the first semi-bigger job of that nature that was going to be going on. And it was a big pay cut to go back there. It was where he was from, though. But he had it made where he was working in California. And he went back there, and when we were like, why are you doing this? He's like, because the customer or whoever it was does not believe that union labor can get this work done in Florida. And I'm not here to get into union versus non-union thing, but he went for something that he believed in.
Yeah.
And he wanted to show that it could be done, rise to the occasion, the challenge. And he motivated people throughout my time knowing him. To him, he would rather not be working than be associated with mediocrity, whether that was mediocre mindset on life, mediocre keeping your trucks clean, mediocre at showing up on time, whatever. He just do it to the fullest, commit 100%, and don't shy away from the challenges of life, whatever that is. And I got put into that general foreman spot, and it was a big bite for me to chew, and I called him a lot before he passed away unexpectedly, and it's like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done this. And he's like, why? I'm like, there's a lot to it. And he's like, so? I'm like, well, I don't really want to fuck this up, Dave, And he said, well, even if you do, you'll gain something from it, and it will only make you better for the next one. Like,
Love
that's a good way to look at it, because it takes repetition, it takes reps. You're not going to be good at it at first. Nobody really is, the perfect GF or perfect foreman or the perfect lineman. It takes time. And the analogy that I used to explain it to somebody was line work, and being a lineman especially, but even an apprentice, is like doing like jiu-jitsu. It's a big thing that everybody does nowadays. When you're that white belt just starting out, you're spending all that time just trying to not get your arm ripped out of socket, rather than you can kind of do some moves, but you're not like soaking in information as you're in the heat of the moment. You're just trying to survive, which, looking back at my first couple years being topped out, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was just trying to not get my ass handed to me every day.
Yeah.
And I feel like you reach a point where you can actually start absorbing that knowledge, at whatever point in martial arts that is. I don't know. I don't do it. But maybe Brown, I don't know. But give yourself some time. Like, don't be hard on yourself like right off the bat, but give yourself some time to gain that experience, and things will start to come more clear. And everybody always told me you learn the most your first year topped out, and that's true, but I feel like I've learned even more in between, like, what about 5 and 10 years
way
of
more
actually understanding the game a little bit more.
All the real learning comes after. Like,
Right.
Like you said, your whole apprenticeship, you're just trying to survive, at least till like a 6-step or 7-step or wherever part of the country you're from. Yeah, that's what I've tried to do with this podcast too. Back to that is like, keep it positive, keep it about, as I started like talking to people like yourself about the trade and about their story, it wasn't just so much sharing about the story or their stories. It was, like, what can we take to help somebody? Like, what lesson can people learn, whether it's a life lesson or a line work lesson? It's all one and the same thing. Like your job or your life or whatever. Like, what can we help? Keep it positive. It's so easy to like. It would have been so easy as well to get on a podcast like this and just bitch about things. Like you've heard everybody at every show up, just that group in the corner, just bitching about everything. It's easy to do that.
But at the end of the day, to what end?
To what end, right? That doesn't help anybody get better.
It doesn't help anybody. And I had a guy tell me he didn't want to get into the trade because all the linemen that he saw were alcoholics or drug addicts.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. Like, I'm not an addict.
Dude,
I'll drink some beer now, but and I'll have some drinks, but that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more to it than that,
Yeah.
And it's a perception thing but there are people out there, but we can do better. And these newer people getting into the trade, they're pretty open-minded, man. They're not dumb.
Yeah.
They're probably the most open-minded generation of workers that we've been exposed to yet. But there's an old school way of thinking there too. But I don't believe in. I really try to not just be the pessimistic complainer, because it's never. All it's ever done is piss me off and make my day terrible.
Yep.
So be part of the solution and not the problem, I think.
You're not growing. You're not going to get any better from it. And that's like, you're not going to help anybody. You're not going to help yourself. You're not going to improve. You're not going to learn anything new from bitching. You're not like, it's a dead end. It's 100% a dead end. And venting is okay. Everybody vents. I guess if you want to lump venting and bitching into the same category, but everybody knows that constant complainer, like the freaking Eeyore.
And it's not kidding either, though.
It's not kidding.
It's not
the straight up. No, they hate everything. They hate everyone. Everything's going to hell. Like, and I just stay away from them now. I don't even associate. I'm sorry if that's you out there, but like, I can't. I'm not going to get any better from it.
Yeah, and I try to get better, make myself get better at stuff by thinking like, is this adding to me?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it subtracting? And
great way to look at it.
I might have said it before, but I believe there's 3 types of people where there's people that will sharpen you, there's people that will dull you, and then on a rare occasion there's people that are just going to hone you, that even though you're sharp, they're going to push you to the next level.
Yeah.
You just have to decide what kind of people you want to be around.
Yeah.
And it can have a lot of an effect. It's huge on you. And I've never seen it where you'll be complaining about something, about, well, we got to go do this, and where everything that you're being requested to do is within reason, and people are complaining. I've never seen a foreman say, okay, you know what, you guys just don't want to do it, then fine. Like, we'll just quit. We'll go home early and we'll just say we can't do it. Because we didn't want to do it. Like, I've never seen that. So, it's better to just say, hey, like, are we like within reason what we're being requested to do? Yes. Is it safe to do it? Yes. Okay. Is it going to suck? Yes. And acknowledging it, like, that goes a long ways too. Like, this is going to suck.
Well,
It's like, just like the ice bath. acknowledging it like helps you get through it.
Yep.
Don't pretend that it's not going to suck. But I was working with some guys who really taught me a lot about positivity. They were younger guys than me, and we were out there in the middle of pouring rain, and we did not plan on working in the rain that day. We were soaked to the bone, and somebody told this dude Matt, like, "Oh man, it's raining out here. Like, we're getting wet." And he's like, "Yeah, man, it's awesome. I wish every day was like this." And he just kept on going instead of like being like, "Yeah, I don't know why the fuck we're out here in the rain," And pretty soon, like 5 minutes later, the rainstorm passed, and we, but it was like, what? I took something away from that, like that positive attitude, like just, like I was remodding all these plates 2 days ago, made an Instagram reel about it, just like fabrication. They fabricated the parts, but they didn't try to put them together. Nothing fit. So I spent better part of a day and a half, like in there drilling and sending plates out to towers. Somebody's like, "Man, like that sucks." I was like, "No, I wish we had 1,000 more of these towers to do."
Yep.
And then, you get into it and you just have that mindset. And
what does Jocko say? Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Good. And dude, and even that, like Jocko, if you haven't listened to his podcast or his book, go give that one a whirl. Like, if you want to just get
100%.
a mindset of fuck it, we got to do it, and we're gonna get through it. I'll go listen to that thing and listen to it on the way to work, and it'll get you in a mindset where, okay, we're gonna excel today. And the culture building episode that I sent you, 395 that he did, I got a guy that is working with me, another lineman on the crew, and he's new to the contracting world, and we're the two younger guys on the crew. We don't have apprentices, and we were both, and he's an ex-Marine, so nothing really bothers him. He's like the most lighthearted guy in the world. But we were listening to that when we were driving, and I was like, it's like, it does suck, like not having an apprentice to lean on to clean the trucks and this and that, but like no one else is going to do it. Like we're the young guys. But I said, like, really, when you get down to it, who does it help? All it does is help us.
Yeah.
If this was Bryce Hubbard Electric, how would I want my truck to be?
Yeah.
It just because it says XYZ company on the side of it doesn't mean that I shouldn't treat it as my own, because when it comes time to do it, I'm the one that needs to know where the tools are. We're the ones that need to have clean trucks. Let's make it easier on ourselves. That culture, that's what we need to focus on, man.
Yeah, buddy.
The culture of the trade, and people are going to get sick of me saying it, but I love it. I am on it, man, because I've never went to work in the morning and got there at 6 in the morning and said, "You know what, I'm glad we didn't clean our trucks off yesterday evening."
Yeah.
Or, vice versa. Damn, I wish we would have saved that for the morning. Just start the day, get yourself set up and be on the right foot in the morning. Because you're who knows what's going to happen when you oversleep or whatever it is, you'll start that day on a bad note. But when you can get into work and everything's like, totally, you have control of your environment, it just makes it so much easier. And where people are, I've seen a guy recently who's also new to this facet of work that we're doing, and he's constantly been trying to get himself situated and be ready to go to work. And God love him for that. He's keeping himself, like, making sure his gear's all set up so he's safe and squared away to get out there. But I've also realized that's such a huge distraction to what are we actually doing today, and how are we going to set up our rigging, and so that personal preparedness is huge. And he's since got lined out, and now that he's got himself set up to do some work, and he's never been exposed to this, we can't expect linemen to take a call, and just not everybody's going to be turnkey. we need to take the time to coach each other. And just because you're a lineman and I'm a lineman, I don't have any right to expect that you would know what we're doing just because you're a lineman. Just like if I went on a trouble truck, I would get my fucking ass handed to me. Or if I went on an underground van, like I've had my ass handed to me on some underground. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, but I haven't been exposed to it. But train people up when they come to your job and get them. The only thing it's going to do is help you.
Yep.
And you're, instead of having somebody who's quote unquote a liability or, you know, maybe not able to pull their weight, isn't it just easier to just help them for a week and then, okay, yeah, we lost so-and-so who was a good hand. He went back home or whatever. But now we took a week and we have somebody that he's going to get to that point where he's carrying his own weight. And I know that it can be hard. That can be hard for people, but you know, it's not my job to train a lineman. Well, it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's a terrible way to look at it, because it's only going to help. It's only going to help you guys, us, especially when you're not there or they're not. We shouldn't have to be holding each other's hands, I guess, and decentralized command, as it were.
Well, I love all of this. I love the idea of making an impact on culture for the positive. So I think
let's figure it out, man.
I think this is a great place to wrap this one up too, and appreciate the conversation. I think there's like really something here. So let's work on this, and I would love to hear from everybody out there that's listening that has some sort of input on whether this is a good idea to pick bite-sized topics, talk about them, share the information that's out there, and just have a quick, bullet conversation about that and get people thinking about whatever said topic is with regards to health and safety and mental and physical wellness. Like, you could loop all four of those things in there because they're all important. And thanks, Bryce. I think this is awesome.
Hey, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again.
All right, guys. I hope you got some value from that episode. I know it was a little bit different than the regular interview style, but I think there was lots of great content in there, lots of great things to learn. If I could ask you guys to do something, it would be hit that like button, hit that follow button, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. Can you make sure you're following me? Please. It means the world. Leave a comment if you'd like. It's much appreciated. I get a lot from that. I read every comment, and I can apply those to the next shows, the questions I'm asking the guests, all that good stuff. So leave a comment if you like. Thank you. Love you. Stay safe. Peace.